Welcome friends to Bradford now, where stories bloom and info flows. Let's dive in where the action shows, news and views that ground and grow. Join us today and stay in the know. This is Bradford now, let's start the show.
Okay, so we're diving into a pretty important topic today. Homelessness in Bradford, especially with Christmas right around the corner.
Right.
You know, I was looking over all the stuff you sent, the report from Bradford Housing Options, some info on local charities and a few news articles. It paints kind of a stark picture, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack.
Like one thing that really hit me was that overestimated number. Individuals are officially registered as homeless in Bradford.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. You have to think about all the people who aren't in the official statistics, you know, the hidden homeless folks couch surfing or in temporary shelters or just in really precarious situations.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just a number when you think about it.
Absolutely. It's people's lives.
Especially at Christmas, you know, we see those images of happy families, warm homes.
Yeah.
But for people experiencing homelessness, it's a totally different story.
Right.
I mean, the report mentioned poverty, unemployment, lack of affordable housing, and then you add in the recent benefit cuts and the cost of living crisis.
It's like a perfect storm, you know, all these pressures pushing vulnerable individuals and families closer and closer to homelessness.
One article even called it a housing emergency.
That's a good way to put it.
But here's the thing. It's not all doom and gloom.
No, definitely not.
You know, you sent info on Hope Housing in Churches, the Salvation Army?
Yeah.
These groups are doing some really incredible work in Bradford.
They're really on the front lines, you know, providing not just shelter and food.
Right, which are obviously essential.
Of course. But they're also offering things like addiction counseling, mental health assistance, job training.
Just like a more holistic approach.
Exactly. Addressing the root causes of homelessness, not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
Empowering people to rebuild their lives?
Right.
But how effective are these approaches really?
Yeah.
I mean, do we see lasting change?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Take the Salvation Army, for example.
Okay.
We have this program called Pathway of Hope.
And they work intensively with families to break the cycle of poverty and homelessness.
And it's working.
They've seen some incredible success stories.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. I remember reading about a single mother named Sarah. She was struggling with addiction, had lost custody of her children.
Oh, wow.
But through Pathway of Hope, she received counseling job training and ultimately regained custody of her kids.
That's amazing.
It really shows you the power of these programs when they're properly supported.
And let's be realistic. These charities rely heavily on public support, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, especially during Christmas.
Yeah.
One of the news articles actually highlighted how donations have dropped this year.
Really?
Probably because of the economy, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a worry because these organizations are already stretched so thin.
So even small donations could make a big difference right now.
Absolutely. Even £5 could provide a hot meal or help someone stay in a warm bed tonight.
Yeah.
It all adds up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always about those big donations, though. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Those smaller acts of kindness can be just as important.
Exactly, like offering someone a warm drink or a sandwich.
Yeah.
Or even just lending an ear, you know, just listening to someone.
I think we often forget how powerful that human connection can be.
Yeah. Especially for someone who's feeling isolated and forgotten.
Exactly. It goes beyond just individual actions, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We have to look at the bigger picture, those systemic issues that contribute to homelessness. One of the articles you sent mentioned this thing called the Housing First approach.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So Housing First, it's a model that prioritizes giving permanent housing to people experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
And they do this without any preconditions, like, you know, requiring sobriety or employment.
So it's about getting people a stable home first.
Right.
And then addressing those other challenges.
Exactly. The thinking is that having a safe and secure place to live, that's the foundation for everything else.
Makes sense? And has it been successful?
Well, studies have shown that housing first can really reduce chronic homelessness.
Wow.
And it helps improve people's overall well-being,
Yeah.
It's not a perfect solution, of course,
Right.
but it's a promising model and it's gaining traction.
I bet there are challenges, though.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like funding resources, getting the community on board.
Yeah, one of the biggest hurdles is the initial investment in housing.
Yeah, because that can be expensive.
It can be, but proponents of housing first argue that it actually saves money in the long run.
How so?
Well, it reduces the strain on emergency services and other support systems.
Interesting. So it's more of a proactive approach rather than reactive.
Exactly.
Okay, so instead of just managing homelessness, we should be trying to prevent it in the first place.
Right, and that brings us back to those systemic issues we talked about.
Yeah. Poverty, lack of affordable housing, inadequate mental health services.
It's a complicated web,
For sure.
There's no easy solution.
But we need to at least start having these conversations.
Absolutely. We can't shy away from these difficult topics.
We need to challenge the status quo and fight for policies that address the root causes of homelessness.
Couldn't agree more.
So it sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach here.
Yes, definitely.
Individual acts of kindness combined with systemic change.
Exactly. It's not one or the other.
Right. We need both, and we need everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Policymakers, community leaders, charities, individuals.
It's a collective responsibility.
I can't just ignore this problem.
No, we can't.
Because at the end of the day, everyone deserves a safe and stable place to call home.
Especially during a season that's all about togetherness and compassion.
And speaking of Christmas, I think it's a good time to remind our listeners that there are ways to get involved right now.
Yes, definitely.
We talk about donations.
Right.
But what about people who might not be able to donate financially?
Well, volunteering your time is incredibly valuable.
Okay.
Lots of charities need help with things like serving meals or sorting donations,
Right.
or even just being a listening ear for someone.
Yeah.
Those everyday acts of kindness that can really make a difference.
Absolutely, and we shouldn't underestimate the power of just spreading awareness.
Oh, that's huge.
Sharing information about these charities on social media,
Yes.
talking to friends and family about the issue.
Right. It all helps.
It's about creating a ripple effect of compassion and action.
Exactly.
And remember, even small gestures can have a big impact.
They really care.
A smile, a kind word, a moment of genuine connection.
It shows people that they're seen, that they matter.
Especially for someone who's feeling invisible and forgotten.
Exactly.
So as we head into the holidays, let's all try to look beyond the festivities.
Yes.
And think about those in our community who are struggling.
Let's offer support and work towards a future where everyone in Bradford has a place to call home.
That's a wonderful thought, and it's a vision worth striving for.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. We've talked a lot about helping the homeless, but what if we shifted our focus to preventing homelessness in the first place?
That's a good question.
What would that look like in Bradford?
What kind of changes would we need to see?
What policies would need to be put in place?
And what could we do as a community to make that happen?
It's a tough question, but it's an important one.
It is.
Because ultimately, our goal shouldn't just be to manage homelessness,
Right.
but to eradicate it altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big goal, but I think it's achievable,
It is, and I think it starts with just acknowledging the problem.
Right, understanding how big it is and how complex.
And then taking action.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we actually do?
Yeah.
I mean, as individuals, as a community, to make this happen?
Well, we've already talked about a few things.
Right, like supporting charities and volunteering.
Like advocating for policy changes.
Yeah, but I think it also goes deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about challenging our own preconceptions about homelessness.
Seeing the people behind the statistics.
Yeah, remembering that these are real people with real stories.
And understanding that homelessness isn't a choice.
Right, it's a result of things that are out of their control.
It's about creating a society that values compassion and dignity for everyone.
A society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
That's the kind of Bradford I want to see.
Me too. And I believe we can get there.
I agree.
So to our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
We hope you'll take what you've learned and do something with it.
Visit the websites of those charities we mentioned.
Yeah, learn more about the housing first approach.
Talk to your friends and family about this issue.
Even the smallest actions can make a difference.
A donation, a kind word, a moment of genuine connection.
Let's make this Christmas and every day after a time of compassion and hope for everyone in Bradford.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next time with another exploration into the issues that matter.
Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep making a difference.
Yeah.